you just keep hitting that income ceiling. And so what I'm known for is helping people to break through that income ceiling and get what I like to call hockey stick growth. What is one area of your life where your beliefs don't affect you? And here's what people do. They'll go, I'll go, exactly. There's no place your beliefs don't affect you. Your beliefs affect your health, your well-being, your stress level. Your beliefs affect your money, your wealth, your finances, your business, how high you get, whether you get that promotion or not. Money is a very surfacey thing. It's a way to get to the actual thing that you want, right? But if you're only chasing the money, that's why most people give up too soon, because money is a very weak motivator on its own. Don't believe the lies in your head anymore. Don't listen to that guy, because that guy is there to keep you safe. But safe is usually the opposite of success.
Dr. Noah St. John joins me here today. You can learn what he is up to by heading over to powerhabitsrealestate.com. Powerhabitsrealestate.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. And we're going to be talking, well, the big topic of the century is mindset. And I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you joining me here today. Frankly, I don't think we invest enough time, effort, and education on this particular topic.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited and looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I hate to jump right in because we typically spend some time with an origin story, if you will, but I only have you for a handful of minutes here. So we're going to dive into the deep end. You want to learn Dr. Noah's background, I'd head over to his website. One of the things that really stood out to me when I was visiting some of your pages is that you have helped people make more in 12 weeks than they have in 12 months. Could you talk a little bit about that and what are the steps towards that type of goal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love this topic because so many people come to me, whether they're in real estate or whether they're entrepreneurs or experts or coaches or whatever they happen to be doing, or whether they're just getting started or even if they've been doing it for years. What happens is many people, most entrepreneurs hit what I like to call an income ceiling. And that means you're working really hard, you're grinding, you're hustling away, but you just keep hitting that ceiling. No matter how many hours you put in, how hard you're working, how many different tactics you use, all the marketing dudes or, and even AI, of course, that we have today, you just keep hitting that income ceiling. And so what I'm known for is helping people to break through that income ceiling and get what I like to call hockey stick growth. And that means, you're kind of going along like this, and then we put my magic in there and then it looks like a hockey stick. You just whoop, right straight up practically. So it's really exciting to see that. So, of course, everybody asks me, well, Noah, how the heck do you do that? Well, it's actually pretty simple. And I'll tell you my secret sauce right here. In fact, I talk about it in my books like Power Habits, which is right here. I'll show you exactly how it works. It's right here on page 44. I'm going to hold this up for you. It's a little hard to see, but I'll explain it. So this is a Venn diagram. And, Venn diagrams are really cool because they show you, when you put these different elements together, then you get this thing in the middle, this result. In this case, success, money, income, impact, whatever word you want. So the two circles that are in this Venn diagram, this particular one, are inner game and outer game. Okay. And so when you look at it, you have your inner game. That's everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly, but it affects everything that you do. Now, let me give you an example. Like, you mentioned that I'm a coach and a keynote speaker. So I get to speak at real estate conferences and summits all across the country. One of the things that I like to do with my audience members is I'll say, okay, what is one area of your life where your beliefs don't affect you? And here's what people do. They'll go, I'll go, exactly. There's no place your beliefs don't affect you. Your beliefs affect your health, your well-being, your stress level. Your beliefs affect your money, your wealth, your finances, your business, how high you get, whether you get that promotion or not, whether you get that deal or not, whether you land that client or not, it affects that. It's affecting your relationships. Your beliefs affect your personal life, your professional life, everything. There's literally no place your beliefs don't affect you. But here's the funny thing. You can't see a belief. You can only see the effects of a belief, right? And that's why you can be doing really well in one area, but maybe you're stuck or struggling in another. Maybe your health is really good, but you're not making the money you want. Or vice versa. Maybe you're making great money, but your health is suffering. Or your relationships, you don't see your family. You're not able to spend time with them on weekends or soccer games or ballet classes. It's not cookie cutter, one size fits all. It's very personalized and customized approach that we take. So that's your inner game, right? But then you also have your outer game. Now, your outer game is everything you can see directly. That's all of the marketing stuff that you've been taught a million times by all the gurus, the offers, funnels, traffic, landing clients, the follow ups, the emails, the automation, the AI, all that stuff, which is great and you need it. But here's the funny thing that most people don't realize is that I have helped my clients over the last 30 years to add over $3 billion in sales. That's B, billion with a B. That means we've helped people to add six figures, multiple six figures, seven figures, even eight figures. But what's so amazing about that is that 90% of that money that I've helped my clients make over the last 3 decades has come from inner game. Now, let me give you a quick example. Now, I was speaking at an event in Los Angeles for 1,000 entrepreneurs. It was a big audience and they're very successful people, seven and eight figure earners. And I spoke for about 30 minutes. I was walking off the stage. A man came up to me and he said, Noah, you are the coach I've been looking for. I want to hire you as my coach. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. You can go to my website and watch this video along with many others. But anyway, so I said, okay, well, what's going on? He goes, Noah, I want to tell you something. We are at seven figures in revenue, my company, but we have been plateaued there for the last 4 years. 4 years, we've just, had no growth. We've hit that income ceiling that you were just talking about. And he said, I have thrown so much money at the problem. I've hired all these marketing gurus. He, named all the names. I've spent tons of money, but we can't break through that income ceiling. He says, as soon as I heard you speak about inner game and outer game and head trash, everything you just said, he said, I knew that you were the coach I've been looking for. So he literally decided to hire me on the spot. That's why I love working with high achievers, right? High achievers, they make decisions quickly and firmly. They don't dilly-dally, they don't mess around. Oh, I got to think about it. I got to talk to people. No, he just did it, right? So anyway, I coached him and his leadership team for 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to scale his business that had been stuck at 4 years at seven figures to over 20 million. And that's what I was talking about, that hockey stick growth. And what's incredible about that story, that example, is that 90% of what we did was inner game. See, he had spent all that money, all that time and attention on outer game. And hey, that got him to seven figures. Nothing to sneeze at, nothing wrong with that. But he couldn't break through, right? And it wasn't until I taught him how to master his inner game, that's when he had the hockey stick growth. So that's how I'm able to help people make more in just 12 weeks than they did in the previous 12 months is by when you merge inner game and outer game together, boom, you become unstoppable.
Well, you just mentioned it. And I saw it on your website. You mentioned this head trash. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and what are some of the common pieces of clutter?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've written 25 books on this one subject. You can't really see behind me, but I've written a lot of books on this subject. So for everyone listening to this program, I want you to think about your goals for a moment. Think about your goals, right? So, everybody says, well, I want to make more money. I want to grow my business. I want to land more clients. I want to have more deals. I want to increase my revenue by whatever it is. Everybody talks about goals, right? We've heard that a million times, right? Set your goals, set your goals. We've heard that a million times. Okay. But here's what nobody talks about. And this is what is so important. And it's one of the things that makes my work different. And that is what happens after you set a goal. All right. So here's what happens for most people. What most people do is they set a goal and they say, let's give an example, hey, I want to add $10,000 a month to my business, right? That's a nice common goal for the average entrepreneur, right? I want to add 10,000 a month. Now it might be 50,000 a month, might be 100,000, whatever the number is, doesn't matter, right? So whatever that number is, X. All right. But here's what most people do. They say, hey, Noah, I want to add an additional 10,000 a month to my business, but I don't think I can do it. I don't have the time. I'm too busy. I can't afford it. I've tried everything already. Oh, yeah. I hired all these other coaches. They didn't do a good job. And, I've watched YouTube videos and I've taken all these courses. And yeah, I don't think I can do it. All right. So you see what just happened? You set a goal. Great. So you did step one right. And then you just psyched yourself out of the whole thing. Right. So it's like if you're in a baseball game, you say, man, I really want to get a hit, but I don't think I can do it. I'll just go back to the dugout. Well, of course you're not going to get a hit. You didn't even try, Now, I understand most people are saying, oh, yeah, but Noah, you don't know what I've been through. I've tried a million things and I've failed. Okay, that's great. Listen, I want people to realize a couple of things. Number one, I started my company, successclinic.com, in a 300 square foot basement apartment in 1997. I had $800 to my name and a book on HTML. I had no money, no marketing, no business experience, no sales, nothing. The only funnels we had back then were funnel cake, so we had nothing. It was like trying to build a house with a rock and some sticks. But I did have one thing going for me. Almost everybody listening to this program also has, and that is a deep burning desire to make a difference, right? To help people, to make an impact on this planet, right? So that's all I had going for me. And I made so many mistakes. I made every mistake in the book, and I've hired all those gurus. I spent over $500,000 going to all those guys only to find out they can't teach their way out of a paper bag. So, if you want to talk about failure, if you want to talk about not getting what you want, if you want to talk about dusting yourself off and trying again, I'm the poster child for that. So what I want people to realize is it's what happens after you set the goal. That's the key. So that's why, to answer your question, that is what head trash is. Head trash is the voice in your head that says, I can't do it because blank, right? I can't do it because, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I can't afford it. I've tried everything and I'll fail. What if it doesn't work? See what I mean? So you literally just psych yourself out before you even tried. The head trash is, in fact, the very thing that is keeping you from reaching your goal. And that's really why my clients have made so much money in such a short amount of time, is because number one, I show people how to identify their head trash. And then number two, of course, we have the powered habit system that enables you to literally take out the head trash. And that's what, again, goes and creates that hockey stick growth.
Do you mind me asking, like, when you say head trash, I picture a garbage can and
Yeah,
somebody's got to be throwing stuff in there.
that's right.
Where does this trash come from?
Well, like I was saying, it comes from your experience, right? So let's take me as an example. When I started out, I had no money, no experience, no marketing, anything like that. What most people do is they try, but they'll try one time, it doesn't work, and then they give up. I had a very strong why, as I call it, my reason. That's part of my power habit system. You find, what is the reason why I'm doing this? When I ask you, why are you in business? Well, I want to make money. Okay, here's $5, go away. That's not strong enough. That's not a good enough reason to keep going in the tough times, right? Of course, we all want money, but that's actually, ironically, for most people, a very weak motivator. But why? What is money? What does that even mean? And when you dig a little further, you see, well, what it really means is security, freedom. I want to take care of my family. I want to retire my spouse. I want to take care of my parent. You see what I mean? So money is a means to do these other things, which is what you actually want, right? So what I help people do is to get to the real reason. Money is a very surfacey thing. It's a way to get to the actual thing that you want, right? But if you're only chasing the money, that's why most people give up too soon, because money is a very weak motivator on its own. So the head trash comes from everywhere. It can come from your experience, like, I tried and it failed, or I tried it and it didn't work. Or it could be, the teacher said I was dumb. I mean, I've had so many clients tell me that over the year. A teacher in fifth grade said I was stupid and I'd never make anything of my life. So that's why I didn't, go after my dreams. I mean, man, that's so common. I'll give you another quick example. I was speaking at a real estate conference in Phoenix, and a man came up to me afterwards. His name's Bill. And I said, he said to me, he said, well, no, that sounds really great, but what makes us different from all the other stuff out there? And I go, I don't know. What do you think? He was expecting like a sales pitch, like to overcome objections and the whole sales thing we've heard a million times. I'm like, dude, I don't need to do that. This thing sells itself. I don't have to overcome objections. I said, I just put it back on him. I said, I don't know. What do you think? He goes, well, it really sounds different because you're talking about the inner stuff that actually gets us in our own way and how to get rid of that. I go, yeah, that's it. And so he decided to sign up on the spot. He was waiting for the big sales pitch. There wasn't one because I don't need to. Anyway, so it turns out that, he went through my coaching and he started doing multi-million and then multi-billion-dollar. Again, you can see his video and many others on the website on powerhabitsrealestate.com. But I mean, that is why this is so powerful. And by the way, he started winning award after award, all these awards after, because he had been in the business for a while, but he was really plateaued and he just couldn't put it together, even though he spent all that money on all these other things. So when you're working on the surface level, you're going to get surface results, right? So what makes Power Habits different is that we're getting to the root cause of why so many smart, creative, talented people are holding themselves back. Once you remove that, boom.
It's interesting you bring that up because I've brought that up myself a few times, is the concept of your because or your why. Most
Yep.
people will spend more time and effort avoiding pain than they will trying to achieve any kind of gain.
That's right.
And it's interesting that you bring it up, and there isn't a lot of people talking about that.
I know that. I've already tried everything. I'm like, yeah, well, how'd that go? And they're like, it didn't work. I'm like, well, because they were up here. Thomas Jefferson had a great quote. He said, for every 99 that are striking or hacking away at the leaves of truth, there's one striking at the root. And so that's what I am. I'm getting to the root cause of why so many smart, creative, talented people hold themselves back. I mean, it's literally like most people are unconsciously driving down the road of life with one foot on the brake, right? So imagine if your goal is a destination, because that's actually what it is. Your goal is a destination. I'm here and I want to be there. Okay, well, it's like driving your car, right? I'm here and I need to go get groceries. So, I could walk or I could get in my car and go get the groceries, right? But that's the thing. That's what reaching our goals is like. But the point is that you wouldn't get in your car, go to the grocery store, walk around the grocery store for an hour, and then get back in your car and drive home. I mean, nobody would do that, right? Because that's insane. What do? You go to the grocery store because you want something, right? I need milk, eggs, butter, whatever, right? So that's the point. But see, that's what your business is like. That's what your career is like. It is supposed to be something that fuels you, that gives you that freedom, that fulfillment, that impact. And yes, the money, right? So it's supposed to do a lot of things. But the problem is that because entrepreneurs and real estate, investors, they haven't been trained in this, right? Most entrepreneurs and real estate investors and people that I meet every day, they're working really hard, but there's no blueprint. So imagine if you're building a house without a blueprint. How's that going to go? You're like, boy, it's drafty in here, right? So that's really, if you don't have the plan, it's going to be awfully hard to get the result.
Right. And just to remind everybody, you can learn more about what Dr. Noah has available by going over to powerhabitsrealestate.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. If you found some value in what we're talking about, Dr. Noah, your domain name says quite a bit, powerhabitsrealestate.com. Could you talk a little bit about what you define as power habits and what's the motivation behind putting that together?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So before I got into this business of helping people, coaching people from all around the world for the last 30 years, I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. I grew up in this little town called Kennebunkport, Maine, which is one of the wealthiest communities in New England. My family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So from a very young age, I was painfully exposed to the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community, and the have-nots was my family. And so I hated that life of poverty. I hated being poor because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. So from the time I was a little kid, I said, how the heck do I get from here to there? And, of course, there was no internet or all the things that we have today. So I did the only thing I could think of, which is I went to the library and I read every book in the self-help section. I read every book because I'm like, if I'm going to get myself out of this situation that I hate and go to the one that I want, I've got to make something of myself. I got to change. I got to improve. How do I do that? I don't know. So go read every book. So I literally read 300 books in, self-help, and they all basically said the same thing, set your goals, think positive and all that stuff. Anyway, so it said all the same thing. And so, fast forward several years later, in 1992, I was 25 years old and I was broke. I just lost my girlfriend. I had a dead end job. I was like a country song. It was really real. I made a decision at that time to take my own life at age 25. I decided to commit suicide. At the last moment, my life was spared, but I didn't know why. I said, I've got to find my purpose here on this planet. What am I doing here? And I didn't know how to answer that question. So I went back to the library, and this time I read every book in the spiritual section. I read all the spiritual thinkers of our time. So I read hundreds of books in the spiritual realm. So then fast forward 5 years later, 1997, I had these epiphanies and I realized that all those books that I'd spent all those years reading, they missed the one essential element that was holding not only me back, but millions of people like me. And that is why so many smart, creative, talented people hold themselves back from the level of success they're perfectly capable of. And it had nothing to do with the surface level habits that everyone was talking about. They're saying, set your goals, think positive, visualize. I mean, those things aren't wrong. But like I was talking about, they're up here at the surface level. They're not the root of the problem. So that's when I discovered this, what I now call the power habit system. The full name is the power habits of unconsciously successful people. Now that sounds like a mouthful, but really it's very simple. what I realized is that highly successful people, the one percenters, the people we all look up to, are doing things unconsciously that therefore, number one, they can never teach us because they don't even know they're doing it. And therefore, number two, it was up to me to systematize it and break it down so that everybody could avail ourselves of these, what I call power habits. All right. So they're unconscious habits. So everybody else is talking about these conscious habits. So if you think about the human brain, I'm sure we're all familiar with the iceberg principle, right? About 5% is visible above the surface. Well, that's the conscious mind, right? Well, the vast 95% is below the surface. That's the subconscious mind. Well, science has shown that 90 to 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and actions every day are in the subconscious. So it's very simple. Imagine if you're going into battle and you got 5 guys fighting 95 guys. Who do you think is going to win? The 95, but only every time. I said, listen, if you're happy with not getting the results you want, then keep doing what you're doing. If you'd like some different results, then you might want to try something different, right? We know the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So that's what makes power habits different. My power habit system is we're taking what has been up until now in the subconscious, that bottom part of the iceberg, and bringing it to the conscious level. And as I always, tell in my keynote presentations to my audience members, whether it's live or virtually, I always say, it wasn't the part of the iceberg that they could see that sunk the Titanic. It's the part that they couldn't see that sunk the Titanic. And that's what's sinking you and me, right? So once we bring it from the subconscious to the conscious, boom, then we can make a conscious choice. Oh, wow, I didn't even know I was doing that. I mean, I've literally had grown men in tears in my seminars because they realized as I'm explaining this to them and showing them, they go, oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't know I've been holding myself back for all these years. No one ever explained it in this way. I'm like, yeah, I know. They didn't explain it to me either. So I had to write books about it. But that's really the essence of my power habit system. And what's funny is it didn't start out as power habits for real estate. It's just as it happens, I've helped people in real estate make hundreds of millions of dollars. And I think one of the reasons for that is because, as anybody who's been in the real estate business for any length of time knows, 90% of your success is up here. So, I mean, a great example, Brian is another one of my coaching clients. And when I met him, he was a real estate professional in Boston and he was doing well, but still he was plateaued hitting that income ceiling, like I've been talking about. And so he hired me to coach him in a very, very short amount of time. He doubled and then tripled his income. And now he has a real estate company in Aruba. So from Boston to Aruba, you're welcome.
Well, you're just echoing the thought. We talk about making the next investment in the real estate world all the time. But what I've been pretty convinced of for some time is that the best investment, and people need to start seeing it as such, is regarding your mindset and your skills. Like that has a biggest return. We talk about cash on cash return all the time with real estate properties. I don't think people realize what you probably should be working on first.
Right here. Exactly. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad you're, on board with this because it does take people some time to believe that. And really, I think part of the reason is because we're so hammered on social media or the internet and even AI nowadays, that everything is marketing. And hey, marketing is important. Of course it is. But that's the outer game that I was just talking about, right? That's about 20% of your success. Frankly, let's just say 20%. We've all heard the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. But 20% of your success in life, as I have observed over the last 30 years, is your outer game. But at least 80%, which I argue is 90%, is your inner game. So the point is that if you're really focused on your outer game and you've ignored your inner game, you're absolutely going to hit that income ceiling like I've been talking about, and I've given several examples of that. Now, if you're only working on your inner game and you neglect your outer game, then you're what I call a highly evolved broke person, right? So you got to work on both. You do have to do both. You have to do your inner game and your outer game. Boom, you put those two things together. That's when you have long-term success, happiness, fulfillment, and, a great income. So it really takes both. But you're right. Most people do ignore their inner game. And, I'm the voice for, hey, inner game, I want to take a look.
One of the things that I was hoping we could chat about briefly is, the concept of generational wealth. And that's a buzzword in our industry. You probably heard that from every real estate guru on the planet. The thing that I keep getting stuck on, however, is that most generational wealth will evaporate within
Oh yeah.
another generation or two.
Oh yeah.
What I thought would be that our biggest asset that we could be passing down and showing as an example to our children
Hmm.
is having that proper mindset and breaking. I still hold on, like much like you, doctor, is the fact that I still hold on to some beliefs that my parents demonstrated for me, going forward. You got to break through some of these things mentally
Yeah.
just so that you can pass that on to your kids and the next generation.
Well, you're absolutely right, Jack. And I do work with my clients a lot on that. I mean, I'll give you an example. I do one-on-one coaching and group coaching. You'll see that when you go to Power Habits Real Estate. By the way, powerhabitsrealestate.com is a course that you can take, right? So it's do it yourself at your own pace. And then if you want to talk to me or one of my coaches about getting that one-on-one or group help, you can also do that there at Power Habits Real Estate. I was working with one of my one-on-one clients, and when he first came to me, one of the things that was really a hot button for him that he felt was really holding him back was his father, right? His father was a bully, just a mean guy. Of course, we run across that quite a bit. And so, he felt that had really held him back over the years. Now, keep in mind, this gentleman has like an 8-figure business. So he's what most people would consider very successful, wealthy, and so on. But he just felt like inside he was still being held back by the specter of his deceased father. And so, I was able to walk him through this process, the Power Habit system. And what was really funny about that is that over a period of just a few months, what was such a hot button for him when we first started, he never brings it up anymore. And I actually pointed that out to him in one of our sessions recently. I said, "Did you notice, by the way, you haven't talked about your dad for a while?" He goes, "Yeah, you're right. I didn't. I really don't think about it that much anymore." And I said, "Do you realize that when we first started just a few months ago, like that was all you talked about? Like that was a big, huge hot button for you." He's like, "Yeah, well, I guess I'm okay now." But this had been going on for him for decades. I mean, imagine that's having that specter over you for decades, and then you're able to just clear it out in a matter of months. Well, it's because of the power of this power habit system. That's what I love about it. It's a system. It's literally a systematic approach to success that I never heard anybody else talk about before. But not only success, making money, being successful, we all want that. I feel just as important, or really more importantly, you have that peace of mind. You have that fulfillment. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of miserable millionaires out there. Well, you don't want to be one. You want to be a happy millionaire, right? And going back to your point about generational wealth, what we should pass on to people. I always remember what Warren Buffett said. He had a great quote. He said, "I want to give my children enough money where they can do anything that they want, but not so much that they can do nothing." I think that's a brilliant quote from the Oracle of Omaha. So that's one of the things that, like I said, I work on with my clients is exactly how to pass that along, in terms of money. But I feel more importantly, that inner game, like I've been talking.
Hmm. Well, before we jump into the rapid fire and start closing out this episode, Doctor, I was curious if you could provide, let's say you're talking to some individuals who are thinking about getting into real estate investing or just
Mhm.
being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they need to get right with themselves, or give them something that they activity or a task to complete here today to take that first
Absolutely.
step?
Absolutely. Actually, I'll give you a free resource right now. If you go to freegiftfromnoah.com, it's easy to remember. Freegiftfromnoah.com. Free gift from Noah. You can't forget that, right? So if you go to Free Gift from Noah, it's called the $1 Million Business Gap Finder. Now, this is a custom GPT that I created. And what you do is you just simply answer a few questions, and the GPT will actually walk you through the steps of what's missing or what the gaps are between you and that $1 million lifestyle business. All right. So that's the main goal that most people come to me with is, hey, Dr. Noah, I really want to be making that $1 million a year, have that lifestyle business, that freedom lifestyle. Why am I not there? That's the number one question people ask me, right? So that's why I created this custom GPT. So again, you go to freegiftfromnoah.com and just literally answer the questions. The GPT will walk you through it, and boom, it will literally lay out for you exactly what's missing between you and your dream business, right? So it's really, really powerful. And so I could tell you a whole bunch of things, but just go use the GPT. I mean, it literally will walk you through it. I had a lot of fun actually designing this. It took me a long time to really create this custom GPT that will walk you through the process. So it's basically like you're getting me as if I was coaching you on a Zoom or on a telephone, and it's asking you these specific questions of where you are and where you want to be. And then it's going to show you the gaps and exactly how we can start to bridge those gaps to get you to your goal much, much faster. So again, free gift from Noah.com.
And that's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. But if you're ready, Dr. Noah, we'll jump right in.
Let's do it.
Well, is there anything we should have hit on?
I think we covered a lot. I think in the time we have, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Well, what lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough, or I'm too old. Oh, I tried everything. Head trash, head trash, head trash. Okay. So yeah, they're telling themselves a lot of lies, which I label head trash. Don't believe the lies in your head anymore. Don't listen to that guy because that guy is there to keep you safe. But safe is usually the opposite of success.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Trust yourself more. Listen to your gut more. I listened to a lot of bad advice out there. I ended up losing millions of dollars because I listened to a lot of bad advice. So trust yourself more. But still, make sure you get the right help, but make sure you qualify that help and make sure that you do your research before you pay someone money. Make sure that they're really qualified to give you that advice before you give them money.
Do you have a book recommendation?
The reason that I got into this business was a book that I'm sure most people have either heard of or read. It's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. He was my inspiration for actually getting into this business. And I had the opportunity to interview Dr. Covey before he passed away, sadly, about 10 years ago. And he said something I never forgot. He says, Noah, I want people to be more impressed with themselves than with me. When they come to my seminars, I want them to be more impressed with themselves than with me. I'm like, wow, that is awesome. What a great quote. And I always remember that, and I'll try to emulate that.
And then finally, what single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact to you or your business?
Oh boy. Well, I'll tell you, I love AI. A lot of people are scared by it. And, it's going to be a huge transformation over the next 3 to 5 years. And of course, even beyond that. But I have, personally implemented it. I use it every day, creating these custom GPTs, and I love it. It's been an enormous time saver for me. Just, as a writer, I've written 25 books, so I enjoy writing, but most people don't really like it or are scared of it. And it's just been a huge help for me to, whether it's writing emails or social media posts or videos or what have you. It's really a great tool that I use every day, and I'm very grateful for it.
Well, Dr. Noah, this has been a fantastic conversation. Again, it is powerhabitsrealestate.com. Clickable link in the show notes, as well as free gift from Noah.com. Take advantage of the GPT prompting and walk through there. This was fantastic. I really appreciate your time here today.
My pleasure.